Out your house, good I've got my ceiling bang. Domestos and my payroll by my side. Hope and pray the NHS don't fall apart. Big up the doctors and the nurses, we keep them in our thoughts. All those hours that them working just to keep people alive. Maximum respect due to all of you. My heart is full of pride. Now you see me say respect you. I'm not that selfish person in that supermarket queue. So if you feel like pushing past vulnerable people and I see all that anger that's inside, you don't want to upset me. So I say go straight out the door. Coronavirus, you're not welcome anymore. Were you the one who tried to hurt me with your lies? You think I'd grumble? You think I'd lay down and cry? Oh no, not I will survive, yeah. As long as I know how to live, I know I will survive. People, clean out your house good, disinfectant, sterilize. I've got my ceiling bang, domestos and my payroll by my side. So if just like me, you have lost good friends, and you don't know if it's corona or government and murder them, hello? One thing I know, just make sure you not end up in a hospital. Me not go make no doctor joke me. Me not take no vaccination. So I say go straight out the door. Coronavirus, you're not welcome anymore. People, clean out your house good, disinfect and sterilize. I've got my ceiling bang, domestos and my payroll by my side. Now they say that domestic abuse is on the increase because of all them dirty liars and them bedroom cheats. True lockdown, them can't sneak out, and their lover is all alone. So they keep texting, sending messages to your mobile phone. Your partner find out, and them get vexed. Them sip your naked picture, worse than that, them read them intimate text. Oh, but just like Shaggy, you tell them, no, it wasn't me. No, you see all this corona causing your misery. So she say, go, sleep on the floor. As far as she's concerned, you're not gonna get her zoom zoom anymore. She treat you good, she treat you like a king and a man. And just because you couldn't keep your little something in your pants, so I say go straight out the door. Coronavirus, you're not welcome anymore. Were you the one who tried to make me lay down and die? You think I'd crumble? You think I'd lay down and die? No, to all those shopkeepers who are going to thief. What was £1.99 is £3.45 this week. Oh, now let me send out a little warning to all of them. I will send for all my friends, thief out your things and share with them. So I say go straight out the door. Coronavirus, you're not welcome anymore. Clean out your house good, disinfect and sterilize. I've got my ceiling bang, domestos and my payroll by my side. I will survive, yeah. As long as I know how to live, I know I'll stay alive. Hey, clean out your house good, disinfect and sterilize. I've got my ceiling bang, domestos and my payroll by my side. So I say go.
This is a Friendly Fire production.
Good night, my Facebook family and friends. Welcome. I'm back for another season of My Perspective. This is the fall edition of My Perspective. I took a little vacation break, as you know, and I hope that you enjoyed the reruns of my prayer activities. But I'm back for the fall season and winter season. So I hope that everything's well with you all. And I hope that you had a wonderful summer. Although, boy, I trust me, a lot of things have been happening in this world, And, if I could go back in time and go back to the past and talk about it, would take up maybe 2 hours of my show or more. But I just want to say that I'm happy to be back, revitalized, ready to go again. And, I'm always trying to improve the show. And I want to tell all my viewers, my community viewers, thank you for being loyal once again. And thank you to be a part of my show, leaving your comments and all that. Brother Swaby, thank you for giving me blessings and love all the time, my brother. It's a pleasure. But tonight, for my first show, I have, I had a distinguished honor of interviewing one of Jamaica's, I would say, I'm going to be biased, the best financial analysis. Yes, this man has advised government after government. He has written articles after articles. He has been on a lot of TV shows. And most importantly, yes, he went to the one college. Yes, the one college. Yeah, but maybe a little biased. Like one college, and that's Mr. Dennis Chung. Mr. Dennis Chung. So let me just give a brief overview of Mr. Dennis Chung's achievements and his record of what he has done so far for Jamaica itself in terms of his contribution. And let me read. Dennis Chung, a chartered accountant by profession, and completed a Bachelor of Science and Masters of Science degree in accounting in 1987 and 1989, respectively, at the University of the West Indies, and a certified public accountant exams in 1990 in California, USA. Well educated boy, bright boy, GSC for life. He attended Jamaica College and was a member of the Jamaica College Board and Foundation from 2005 to 2012. He served as CEO of the private sector organization of Jamaica during the period 2012 to January 2018. Dennis Chung is currently the Chief Executive Officer of Supreme Venture Services Limited and holds the following positions. Hold the following positions. Let me go down in one by one. First, Director of Petrojam. Second, Director at the Jamaica Football Federation. Third, Director at Wington Wind Farms Limited. Justice of the Peace for the Parish of St. Andrew. Chairman of National Solid Waste Management Authority. Yeah, I heard about that good work. So the Prime Minister, he wanted to resign, and the Prime Minister and Mr. McKinney said, no, you're not going nowhere. We're going to keep you because you're a good boy. You work hard. And I think it's the first organization too that produces all the financials on time. Anyway, next is the chairman of GK Capital Management Limited. So, in my 6-7 positions. He's also a past president and a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Jamaica and past director of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of the Caribbean, and has also served on numerous public and private sector boards, including the Bank of Jamaica and more recently the Pension Industrial Association of Jamaica and chairman of National Integrity Action. What are they? Why do that? Before I ask my question, when you come. Yo, this one he's a wanted and important individual for all of these organizations so far. Has written a weekly column in the Financial Gleaner and the Jamaica Observer on economic and financial matters since 2003 and contributes commentary to both the print and electronic media. He has done numerous presentations in Jamaica and within the Caribbean region. He has authored 2 books, Charting Jamaica's Economic and Social Development, A Much Needed Paradigm Shift, and 2, Achieving Life Equilibrium, Balancing Health, Wealth, and Happiness for Optimal Living. He also co-hosts with Caleb Reynolds a TV program, On Point, which discusses current business and national issues. Dennis is also a recreational cyclist. I know a recreational cyclist because boys man every day in my ride. We can't call him semi-professional. I don't call you the pro level differently, but I call him semi-professional because, you know, he is an ardent rider. Every day I see him post distance him cover, what he's drinking, take. But anyway, let me just cut the little gibberish and add Mr. Dennis Chung to my stream. Good night, my brother. Strong.
How you doing, Sean?
Why?
Perfect.
Boy, fervent. Boy, let me just make sure we put it in the right place because you're the main man, and I'm secondary tonight to what we're going to discuss. But question before I even go further, how is the family, sir? How is the family?
Good man. Everybody is good.
Yes, sir. Good. And I'm also, how are you doing otherwise?
I'm all right, as good as can be. The key to life is understand what really matters and don't let everything bother you.
Aye. You're right, boy. But I have a question for you. How do you manage all these responsibilities? Because when I go into this, it's like 15, 20 responsibilities.
Yeah.
And
you know what's important?
Yes.
You have to have good people working with you.
Good people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Once you have good people, it makes it a lot easier. I mean, you talk about organizations like NSWMA, for example, right? Apart from consultations now and again during the month, all I have to do basically is turn up at board meetings because I have a good team there. So the key to it is always to have good people around you.
Right.
Once you have that, then it makes it a lot easier. And I mean, the truth is that most of those positions you don't meet until maybe once every 3 months.
Yeah, but at the same time, I know, and I don't want to elaborate too much on your positions, but I know that you got to get information to cipher through, to reconcile, to make decisions before you reach the board meeting. Don't decide. I know that you did, and I know when you go on these boards, a lot of paperwork you have to go through. Is that correct?
Yeah, you do. But the truth is that outside of work, cycling and that, I don't really do much more. I don't go out and, when a lot of people spend a lot of time watching TV or going out. I mean, you mentioned the book I wrote, Achieving Life's Equilibrium. If you were to measure the amount of time that you spend on watching television, going out, then you see how much time you actually spend on those things. Though I don't do a lot of that. So what I do is channel those things into what I find more enjoyable, which is this sort of work. I see the government boards as giving back, because I think it's important. I mean, if you think about life,
right,
unless you are doing something to help your country or help others, you really shouldn't be living,
Mr. Dennis Strong, and I'm referring to you, brother, but that is so much important.
Yeah.
But no people don't get that concept, because no people living for themselves most time. And
exactly.
And it's a selfish attitude which I don't like, but it's people's choice, and we gotta respect it. That's
I mean, you have to respect it, but when you think about it, I mean, that really is the purpose of life. Because if you come here and you don't help others or help your country, or help others, I should say, because when you help your country, you help others, then what really are you here for? Because your life is really a spot, on the whole scheme of things. You're one of 8 billion people globally. Your 70 years that you're promised is very minuscule in relation to the overall time.
Yeah.
So you have to come here and you have to do something.
Positive. Give back.
Yeah.
Whatever way you can. Even if you have your own family, friends.
Exactly. Exactly.
But some people don't get opportunity to give back at higher level, like yourself, to government, through government and private sectors. Because I give back. I give back through sports. I give back to the local community here where I'm in New York. I help people otherwise. So you're right in saying that your life is just a spot here, but you have to be able to give back.
Exactly.
And give back in some way, positively, not negative.
No. And if you're doing it negatively, it means that your life not really worth much, and you really shouldn't be here. That's how I see it.
Let me leave it right there. Let's go to the interview, because that's another level of philosophy speaking, and the whole thing about life in general. And you sound like a man deep in philosophy and all that. So I will leave it right there. But I asked you to come on this interview to just discuss Jamaica economy. We're talking about COVID, and also crime. But we're going to talk about Jamaica economy. And first and foremost, I've seen where the statistician, government forgive me,
statisticians,
right? They're saying that there's some level of growth expected within the economy. You understand me? I'm trying to understand where that growth going to go and what they mean by that, and maybe you can just give a summary overview what they're talking about growth in terms of economy for Jamaica.
Well, we had growth in the last quarter of 12.9%, right? But put that against the quarter that you were measuring before, where there was a decline,
right,
of 18%. So the economy really is just growing back to where it was. So that is expected, right?
Right.
Because if you have the lockdowns and the shutdown, business just not operating,
right,
as soon as some amount of opening up happen,
right,
then the economy is going to come back. Now, the decline that happened last quarter of 18% was included the St. Catherine lockdown. Remember when they did the St. Catherine lockdown?
Right. Yes.
So that's what caused it. But putting everything into perspective, I did some analysis the other day, and it shows that over the last 6 quarters, Jamaica has really declined an average of 5.6% over the last
5.6%
last
6 months.
On average over the last 6 quarters.
Hold on. So we're getting some contradiction there. One is saying growth, and it's in the last 6 quarters, which include the last quarter you're talking about.
Yes, but the last
5.6%.
Yeah, but the last quarter we grew 12.9%. But it was growing against a quarter before that we declined 18%. So even though we improved 12.9%, the corresponding quarter last year was a decline of 18%.
Wow.
So the average growth rate of Jamaica over the last 6 quarters was an average decline of 5.6% per quarter. So when we talk about growth this quarter, it must be put against that context that you're really recovering. So it's like you go down, you take 2 steps backward and 1 forward.
Right.
You understand?
Yes, I get it. So you're saying basically we declined by 20% in the last 6 quarters, but now we're back up 12%. There's a growth in the last quarter of 12%.
Right.
But the reality I'm going to ask you is that average man on the road now feel that growth. Because I've been reading a lot from, I'm not going to call newspapers name, but and social media, which is one of the biggest thing right now, and people are crying. The poor people are crying. Even today, I saw a video where this young chap is crying for help. He said, "Why he's not getting help? He's not getting no help at all. He don't know what I'm gonna do. He feel it down." And this can resonate to other kids who are the people out there. So tell me, is it real growth or is it just numbers growth we're talking about?
It is real growth, but remember that you're coming from a position where you had $100 in your pocket, right?
Right.
You lose $50 and you get back 20. So you're really down $30.
Yes.
Right. Now, a lot of the people who and then the $30 that come back, what you find is that the growth is not happening at the lower income level.
Yes, that
is the issue, right? And the lower income level man started behind the 8 ball with his $100 already.
Yes,
because that $100 couldn't buy the thing that cost $150 before.
Right.
So what has happened is that we have seen the growth, but in addition to the fact that we haven't come back to the $100 where we were before, the price of the $150 goods now gone to $200. So he's seeing some growth in his income, but the cost of the products, because of what we've been seeing in inflation. Because you remember, life has gone up the other day.
Right.
Gone up, right? But the man still hasn't got back to the $100 he was making before, even though the price gone up. So what is happening now is that there is some growth,
right,
but it is not compensating for the decline that happened before fully. And it is also not compensating for the increased prices that we're seeing out there already. You understand?
So therefore, inflation has wiped away purchasing power of the month. $70 we're having in their pocket. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, effectively. Yeah,
So,
light gone up, chicken price gone up, food price gone up. You know.
So the beast of the matter is inflation then. And just to move on to what you were saying, I see where the Bank of Jamaica now its independent role. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, it's independent now.
And based on the reading I did, is that they are to control inflation between 4% and 6%. Is that what their target is? It's target.
Yeah, inflation is a little higher than they had projected though. But remember that the BOJ measures core inflation, and this is always the issue. So the BOJ, the basket of goods that is measured,
right,
is not going to consider the fact that people have additional luxuries that they want to achieve.
Right.
So the price of TVs, for example, gone up. It's not going to measure that. You understand?
So what they measure?
It measures a real core, primarily food. Food is the main thing.
Right.
That's in the basket of goods.
Right.
So when you go to the supermarket and you see prices constantly going up, it don't necessarily reflect in the basket of goods because the basket considers certain basic things.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah, I got you. I understand, right.
The luxuries that you want to have, the people who like processed foods might have a little more thing that he wants to add to it. Right. Those prices are going up, and you've seen where the exchange rate has been going.
So Dennis, and since the BOJ does measure inflation by the core, what are the proposals you have in mind which can help to stem this inflation if there are real concrete proposals? Because guess what? The government, after they have to find a way to tame this inflation. And if people are constantly hurting, and it's quite clear that Jamaica has not fully recovered from COVID-19. They're still going through different phases of the COVID-19, which we will talk about later on in the show. But what do you recommend? Or what are your real thoughts behind it?
My view is that things are not going to get better.
Wow.
Because, and I've been saying this for a long, long time, the primary problem that Jamaica has is one of the lowering labor productivity. In other words, if I am making $100 today, right? And it can buy 100 items, and I am making $100 tomorrow, right?
Right.
And it can buy 110, it can buy 90 items. It means that my labor productivity is going down because I am working the same amount.
Right.
And I am only able to afford less because I am not producing at a higher labor productivity. And that has been the primary problem that Jamaica faces since about 72. Labor productivity has been declining except for 3 years in the 1980s. And nothing is being done to change that. Right?
So hold on, just stick up here. You say labor productivity keeps declining and it's only going to get worse. Because what? People, I earn $100 today, I can buy 100 goods. Tomorrow, I can buy 90 only. And then tomorrow, the following day, I can only buy 80. So, question for you, how do we overcome this labor productivity issue?
we can only overcome it by taking some leadership, clear leadership and radical decisions in our policies, right? I applaud the move to make the Bank of Jamaica independent. That is significant. And to put the fiscal rules in place, right?
Right.
And you have to applaud the government for going through with that. And for the previous administration under Peter Phillips for starting it, right?
Right.
But we have not addressed the elephant in the room. So in the 2013 IMF agreement, right? If you notice, I always maintain that Jamaica will not grow sustainably over 1 or 2%. We need about 5% sustainably.
10%, 60% above those, no, above 5% constant and keep going up. Right.
Yeah, but you check it out. We have not been able to grow above 1% for any long period of time.
And I agree.
Right?
Or it's over 80 years or more, 20 years, 25 years or more.
Right.
From the 80s. I remember those days. Yeah.
The 80s was the last time we had any sustained growth.
Right.
Over like 2 or 3%, the early 80s.
Right.
And that was driven primarily by debt. A lot of people don't know that in 1984, I think it was, debt to GDP ratio was the highest it was ever in the country.
Wow.
Right? Wow. Now, what we have not done in 2013, the IMF agreement said that one of the most important things to achieve was labor market reform.
Labor market reform. So break that down for my view. What is that now? Let's give a quick breakdown.
Labor market reform means that you have to look at your labor laws and ensure that they're geared towards productivity. So you can, for example, catch a man stealing on camera and you breach one process in the disciplinary hearing, and that man will carry to IDT and win, and he will get a reinstatement, even though you catch a man stealing, you know.
Right.
So we don't have labor laws, and don't get me wrong, I think the IDT is important because you have to protect labor rights.
Right.
But there has to be some equity and practicality for it, because what has happened is that because 90-odd%, maybe about 98% of the cases that go to the IDT, irrespective of the evidence you have, right? The employee will win, right? And it takes years, sometimes about 2 years to resolve it.
Which is total garbage to my point, but
which is rubbish, right? Which is rubbish.
And I don't want to cut you, Dennis. Although we have our IDT, what about the local? It's a chin shop. Them the local place when on a label. We don't have no labor or them just hire people.
Right, the informality.
Yes.
Right. So what happens then is that because you do that, the private sector in response started putting people on contracts.
Wow.
And when you put a man on contract, especially, you understand?
Yeah, I heard about the contract. Yes.
So irrespective of what want to happen during a man's contract of a year or 2 years, you sure say at the end of the year or 2 years, you just don't renew the contract. And you don't have to deal with the labor laws. What that has done is that it has, number one, reduced the wages of people, right?
Right.
But it has also ensured that when a man is on contract, he does not have security of job, but he doesn't have security of pension or health insurance.
Wow.
Right? So those labor laws have sort of decimated the labor force. Now, I don't see that there's any will from 2013 to address the labor market reform. And therefore, unless you are able to address labor market reform, because labor is the highest value input that we have. So most of the things that we produce in raw materials are imported. The only thing we have to add of value is labor.
Right.
And if the value of labor keeps declining, it means that you cannot compensate enough for the foreign exchange inputs. So
Wow.
therefore, the cycle will always continue. Another one that I always talk about is public transportation.
Yes.
I did some analysis a few years ago, and it showed that because of the traffic congestion that we have on the road,
right,
people are spending about $200 billion worth of productive hours in traffic.
So they come back to infrastructure problems.
Infrastructure,
It comes back
labor
to labor market
reform.
reforming.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm going to be blunt and straight. The politicians of our country are keep on failing our people. And I don't know what it would take for them to make this change for taking our people then from making this progressive movement, I call it progressive improvement of our people's lives. And then this is something that really is troubling, because when you talk about the labor market, I've always said that our Jamaican people are treated at times with little disregard.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, I think the politics and in particular Parliament has failed us.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because Parliament, for example, we have some very old laws on the book, right? we have
yes.
People dying daily on the road because of how people drive on the road, right?
Carnage, a lot of carnage, yes.
And for over 10 years, we cannot effect the Road Amendment Act.
Because you know what it is? Years. Because you know what it is, and I could be wrong. That some people, it doesn't, the government doesn't care about getting certain, no one, they don't that progressive agenda.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that, Sean. I think some government, like I've heard Delroy Chuck and the Prime Minister, for example, saying that this thing must happen. But our bureaucracy is terrible. I mean, when you talk about procurement, for example, right? I mean, we want emergency procurement. Look at what Dr. Tufton, Chris Tufton is saying. You need certain things emergency for the COVID fight.
Right.
And you go through the procurement process.
Because you know what it is? People were in because guess what? The thing about it is that with this corruption thing, they have tightened too much thing. They're not that too much red tape. It's too much in Jamaica. Too much red tape.
A whole lot of red tape.
I'm gonna tell you straight up. You see them old people there, the permanent section, and people there, we need fresh thinking. We need people who are going to go in there and say, listen, we can tear down this, we can reform this. As they call up labor reforming, government reforming its old policies of bureaucracy, make things easier for things to be done. Look at the NIDS. Listen, you know what? I don't want to get too upset, get emotional about this thing, because there are some things that I really want to ask you about, because time is, time flies when we start getting into this discussion. But a friend from 85 Group asked this question: the current exchange regime. He's saying that how best can we address it? Because the dollar keep devaluing and up and down, appreciating and all that.
Yeah, but Sean, that comes back to the whole thing of labor productivity.
Jesus.
The dollar will keep devaluing because you don't arrest the labor productivity decline. Right?
Okay.
It will keep declining. So the biggest import that we have is oil, right? If you are a country that don't produce oil, then you want to put a good public transportation system in place so that less people drive their personal cars.
Right.
But we have failed, right?
Right.
For over 20 years or 30 years now, to put a good public transportation system in place. So our oil bill keeps getting higher and higher. I mean, we also have failed to have in place a proper renewable energy sector, right? So there are some restrictions, and government is restricted because of the laws. Right? And the situation we have with JPS, which they have a license, they have a legitimate license, right?
But Dennis, does not interject here. And I talk about these things that Jamaica challenges face in terms of labor productivity, labor market reform, and all that transportation. Is it because of lack of resources that's causing this issue? Lack of human capital resources that can help to push these reforms in place? Because to be honest, you got 60 members of parliament.
63.
You got the 60 members, you got the permanent section, whatever. Is it that we really lack that human resources to do these things?
I think our policy infrastructure is incorrect. We try to change it with like the independent BOJ, the fiscal rules, the corporate governance code. But what you need is not, when the system is as broke as we are, you need radical change. You don't need incremental change. You need to radically change things. And I wouldn't necessarily come down alone on the side of government and says government. I think it's more parliament. Parliament has failed us because parliament is the highest body in the land in terms of governance, and they have the ability. So if the government, for example, is not doing something, the opposition should be there, right, coming up with solutions, right? We don't have a parliament that is progressive and carrying us forward.
And I will agree 100%. The parliament comes with both oppositions and party in power. But you keep on saying radical, and you mentioned that word twice, and it just kind of hit me. When you say radical, how radical are you talking about? Is it that you're going to give a knee jerk to our governance system and to the people in general? I'm just trying to understand what you mean by radical.
Well, I should use the word revolutionary, right?
Okay.
So, in other words, the incremental changes, it's not going to work in a system like what we have. It has to be a revolutionary change to say, listen, you see these things, we're going to fix it. The court thing, we're going to fix the court thing. And I think Brian Sykes has been doing a very good job.
Yes, I see that. I agree 100%.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. After the Prime Minister will my ransom to do the job.
Yeah, man. He's doing a very good job.
Yeah,
but
very good job, man.
We need to have a revolutionary change, right? Not just tinkering on the edges, right? We need to have a program where we say, listen, all these laws that are here, we're dealing with all of them this year. I won't sort out all of them, right? Change the laws. We need to change labor market reform, right? Not just tinker at the edges with the current infrastructure. Unless we are able to do that, we're going to keep hopping along and we're going to keep slipping back more and more. So other countries, I did a comparison with Sweden, the United States,
right,
and their average growth. And over the past 6 quarters, they basically have had an average growth of 0%. So it means that they've totally recovered now and are moving forward. We're still behind the 8 ball.
So you're saying a revolution in terms of labor laws. The bottom line is saying the parliament is failing the people of Jamaica. And is it? I mean, I could ask a question. Is it because of they have their own lives? Is it that they're selfish? Is it because there are special interest groups that are stopping this revolution in Jamaica society, in its progressive movement?
What I would say is that I don't know what the reasons are, but all I'll say is that the leadership that we need to make things revolutionary has not emerged.
It's still submerged. It's still somewhere waiting to come up on top.
It has not emerged. So we haven't seen that person come out or the leadership in parliament come out and say, listen, these things need to change and we're going to change it. People are comfortable with the current status quo.
So the bill that you're printing, they're protecting the status quo, then that's what you're saying indirectly.
Well, I just think people are comfortable with the status quo as is. You know, I don't because I don't know. It takes a certain level of thinking, right? And this, I mean, you see it in organizations. So when people become comfortable with something, then they make they tinker at it. I mean, if you look at people like who have made differences,
Right.
Martin Luther King, Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore,
Right.
um, Nelson Mandela.
Yeah. Right.
Changes that they made have been revolutionary. They have bucked the system.
And they paid a price.
Yeah, they paid a price, but that's what leadership is. And after a while, they get the reverence that they deserve. But that's what leadership is. Leadership say, listen, we're going to do this thing. I mean, if you look at, for example, how World War II was won, right?
Yes.
It was a radical thing to do, like D-Day, D-Day.
Yeah, man. I know D-Day. Yeah,
Right?
man. Yeah.
So you have to, when you're making change, it has to be a revolutionary thing that's going to push the needle. So you're moving along, and the only way to get to that next level is for you to make a revolutionary impact to get to the next level.
Yeah.
Or you're going to be gradually moving.
So you're saying that Jamaica is going to be still on a decline in terms of labor productivity, in terms of inflation, in terms of Jamaica devaluation, that keep devaluing, not appreciating our time at all. So
yeah, I mean, when you look at the policies that we have in place, some companies will do well, and we'll have bright sparks along the way. But you talk about long-term sustainable development, I don't think we're on that path. And don't get me wrong, Jamaica will improve, but development is always relative to other countries in the world.
Yeah.
Other countries will move way ahead of us. We will improve, but then they will still be moving way ahead.
But so therefore, 2030 vision is quite impossible then. That's what they're saying.
2030?
2030, yeah. Become
Yeah, no, 2030, I've always maintained that on the current path that we're on, 2030 vision is not going to take place.
Wow. Well, we heard it from you. 2030 vision now going to take place based on what we're doing right now.
We have to make the change. We have to make the revolutionary
change to meet the 2030 vision.
And I don't put it beyond the people who are in politics, because they can do it. And don't get me wrong, we have as a country made some very good policy decisions in terms of institutional building. And I mean, Jamaica, for example, has one of the best press freedom records in the world.
Yeah, listen.
Right? So
Dennis, stop, please. I don't want to call it, but you see, we know all those achievements,
yeah.
But real change and real improvement of our people have to be done through Parliament, and that's a fact.
Yeah.
And you have just hitting in it. Parliament has to do the work that needs to be done to make that change. Yes, we got freedom of express. We made some change with the Bank of Jamaica.
Yeah.
Press freedom is there, but there's still we're still lagging, and that's the issue I'm having. And if Parliament don't say, listen, if they don't come together and say, listen, these are what we want for our people, my brother. This is where we want to be at by 2030 and make those revolutionary changes that you recommend. Then, hey, 2030 come and we pass. And then with another maybe 2060 again.
Yeah, because we're basically in 2022 now.
Hey, let's
we still have over 1 million people squatting.
Listen, I don't want to talk about this. Why I keep on bringing up things? People still squatting, But let's stay in context. And I mean, we don't want to. Because guess what? It's 8:45 already, and I got 15 minutes, and I didn't even touch the surface. I said of the issues that we really face, Jamaica face. And one of the things I want to ask you about is that someone asked me that if increasing income tax threshold can make a difference. Based on that, the government revenues are ahead of projection. Increasing income
it's not going to make a difference, and it comes back to labor productivity again.
Mm-hmm.
If you put more money in people's pocket, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then, and you don't improve productivity,
Right.
then all that going to happen is that you're going to have inflation. So you will have, you remember when we had the 1.5
Yes.
tax break?
Yes.
Immediately everybody was okay. Everybody got a little more money, right?
Right.
And more tax was put on the people making over $10 million.
Right.
Right?
Right.
What happened after even within a year? What happened? The
Erode
people over $10
inflation.
million start making more money, because they're more productive generally.
Right.
The people who got the 1.5, inflation wiped them out. So unless you address the matter of labor productivity, you are not going to go anywhere. You can give increases all you want in a year to 2 years. If you don't improve your productivity, but you improve your income, then you are going to see that wiped out. And inflation is one of the worst taxes that can happen on people.
Taxes.
Yeah, because what you're doing is that you're just taking the money, you're giving it to someone. So if you're producing 100 units or something in the economy, right? And you increase the income from 100 to 150. Is that instead of $100 being out there to buy 100 units, it's now 150 to buy 100 units because you haven't increased productivity. So the price of the 100 of each item will go up to match the 150 that's out there now.
So that means that the income tax threshold will a joke. That's what you're saying.
Well, I think that it was good from the point of view that it started the whole thing of money moving out of government into the society where it is more productive, right? So from that point of view, it's good. But then if you do it and you don't raise the productivity level of labor, then you're going to have a problem come back at you. So it's good. It's good in terms of moving the reform in that direction. And the Minister of Finance, I think this Minister of Finance has come many times and has some positive presentations in terms of doing that. But it is not going to impact
labor productivity.
Right. And it's not going to make people's lives better.
And so therefore the cycle continues. Inflation go.
Exactly. The cycle continues, which is why it's important that the BOJ is now independent, because the BOJ as an independent body has more leverage over monetary policy and is not influenced by government fiscal policy anymore. But the main issue is labor productivity. Unless we address that, then
labor market reform and transportation infrastructure. So Dennis, to be honest, you have said a lot, and it goes to the core of the situation of Jamaica problems. And based on what you're saying, is that our people continue to face these struggles for a while, unless a couple of things take revolution in labor laws, revolution in economic policy. Bottom line, Parliament.
Yes.
You said the word Parliament.
Parliament
has to be more aggressive, more progressive in thinking, more assertive in actions, and get things done for the people of Jamaica. That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Put things on the table, make sure things passage goes through within a timely frame, like what I'm seeing with the courts now, that the Justice Skyers and the Yellow Truck are getting improving that. The same approach has to be taken with Parliament. That the opposition, the members of Parliament, whatever, have to come together from the Senate floor straight up to the member of Parliament in whatever, has to put in the work. The question is, are they willing to put in the work? Are they willing to serve the people of Jamaica in that way?
Well, I mean, we'll see.
We'll see. And that's operative word. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, brother. Let's move on. It's such a wonderful avenue on my program, and I really appreciate it because a lot of my friends, Milton Swift commenting, Patrick Allen, Christopher Smith, Robert McClellan, they made a lot of comments. Thank you all for your comments. I've been reading it. And I really appreciate you guys making your comments. COVID-19.
Yeah.
How you think the government has been doing with COVID-19 in terms of its performance in handling this crisis? Because I've seen where there's too many. It's slow down and it's back up, slow down, it's back up again. Lockdowns, loss of productivity too, loss of income for individual, loss of profit for companies. What's your take on this COVID-19?
I think the government tried its best, right, to balance the lives and the livelihood. The problem that the government faced, and it's not just this government alone.
Yeah, we know it. All over the world, yes.
And this, I say to put this context, I have always maintained from last year when this thing strike, right, and I got information that the policies that were being pursued by governments around the world in terms of lockdowns and curfews were not sustainable.
I agree.
I always maintain that what would happen is that the outbreak would have gotten worse. So it's actually worse now, than it was before, right? I mean, in the US, over 2,000 people are dying a day. In Jamaica, an average of 13 to 15 over the past 7 days dying, right?
Right.
The country, I think, that took the right decision was Sweden, right?
Right.
Sweden did not have a lockdown and did not drastically put in any measures, but relied on people to act in their best interest. And right, they've had a lot of death initially, but the death initially was because they failed to protect their elderly in the nursing homes, because 70% of the deaths that they had occurred there.
Right.
So what I have always maintained is look at what Sweden did and modify it and learn from their mistakes. But they had economic decline last year of 2.5%. We had economic decline of 11%.
But you see, just to point out what you said about Sweden people, they showed discipline in their approach.
Yeah. But then
that's the biggest difference. In the USA, listen.
But you know what?
Problem. Jamaica even worse. If people show discipline in other countries like USA and Jamaica, then we could say maybe lockdown would be unnecessary.
But Sean, one of the things I've maintained from the start too. If you look at countries like the USA and Jamaica, right?
Right.
What we tried to do, and in the USA initially they came with this lockdown, right? Is that you try to put policies in place to tell people what to do.
Right.
There was not an initial reasoning with people like in Sweden to say, listen, guys, this is how we're going, and we're going to ask everyone to comply. I don't think that Jamaicans are more indisciplined naturally than anywhere else in the world. What happened is that the environment that they're in, because if you take a Jamaican out of Jamaica and put him in the US or Singapore, he conforms,
Right.
Right?
Right, I agree.
The environment that they're in. So the problem with the US was that you had the Republican Party under Trump on one hand saying one thing, and then the Democrats saying the other thing. So you have in countries, in democracies, you always have a division between loyalties to political party. If they're not saying the same thing, you have a problem. Now, in Jamaica's case, we did not have that division. The opposition and the government agreed. But what was happening is that there were so much things happening in the opposition that the opposition never have the opportunity to come on and speak along with the government. And the government tried to impose, once you start imposing restrictions on people,
people start getting rebellious.
You're going to have rebellion. So what you need to do, and democracy is one of the hardest things, you have to be able to reason with people, right, and influence them to do things.
Right. So therefore, the messaging was totally wrong in Jamaica.
Messaging, not only in Jamaica, around the world was
Yeah.
wrong. The
So
messaging was wrong. You cannot take steps to eliminate a virus when a virus can't eliminate. A virus will be with you forever.
yes. So therefore, the messaging from day one from governments of
Yes, because
was lacking.
but
Maybe that was the approach Sweden took. Good messaging from day
the
one.
messaging in Sweden was different, and they did not affect people's lives. No, you have a situation, Shauna, it's more pronounced in Jamaica. And it happened in the US too, because people are now almost homeless, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you are taking steps and you said to a man, listen, you can't work for the next 3 months and you are hungry in 3 months' time, what sort of messaging you won't listen to when you're hungry?
No message, because a hungry man is a hungry man. Bob Marley said it.
Exactly. And that's the issue. I think that the world went wrong. The WHO, for example, they weren't consistent. And you got a lot of mixed messages from everybody.
Because guess what? And I agree with it, because guess what? They didn't know how to angle this virus. This
Right.
COVID-19. They didn't know angles from there. And they
But,
I saw it for myself.
logically, Sean, Sweden said from the start, listen, because I listened to the guy who is the chief epidemiologist or whatever it is there. And he said on an interview on a New Zealand station, he says to the person who was proposing lockdown, he says, so after you finish lockdown and the virus is still here, what you going to do? You understand?
Yes,
because
I understand.
When the lockdown's finished, the virus is still here. He says, listen, we are going to go with controlling it, right?
Right.
And getting people to act responsibly. Right now, Sweden had an average death rate for 7 days. With the same Delta variant, with a population of 10 million, of 2 per day.
So they have adopted a proper messaging method, a proper way of which resonate with people and following the protocol, which is wearing masks, washing hands, social distancing, and they're able to contain and able to get the population vaccinated properly.
Yeah. So and they right. So they send the messages, right, and they get the messaging out there. And when you have messaging that is in people's favor, so that you're not cutting off people's income,
right?
People will trust you, and people will work with you. But if you have a situation where you put measures in place to affect someone's livelihood, then it's not there. And therefore, it makes it a lot more difficult. So, I mean, when you look at the US, for example, there's a huge division between anti-vaxxers and vaxxers. I never hear of any anti-vaxxer demonstration in Sweden.
So therefore, Sweden got it right with their people.
I think
like Jamaica and US get it right. That's what it is.
I think initially they got it wrong in terms of that they didn't protect the elderly and the nursing home, but that was the early thing, and they admitted that, right? So what we should have done is we should have said, listen, let us try and learn from this model, put the protection in place where it needs to be.
Right.
But I think it is unethical to say to somebody, stay home, don't go to work, and I can't feed you.
and that's the problem, because
and
my brother, so we're out of time, and I will have to ask you for a second interview. I'm sorry, is that possible with your time schedule, sir?
Yeah, man, no problem.
We have to continue with this COVID thing and economics and crime, because there's things that you said which resonate with me so much, and I think I need to just get some more from it, because you have said a lot, which is important. And I hope that people are listening. And I said to my viewers that, listen, I'm here to give you myth, and I get a person, you come along and give the reasons. Either they can accept or reject, but the evidence is there. And you're a person who does your analysis a lot. You present your evidence. So therefore, you either to accept or reject. But all indicators showing that there have been positive results.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't like to put it down to a government or this or that. I mean, I think the government has tried, to be honest with you, but there's a lot of impediments in the bureaucracy and in terms of interest groups, right? And I think that the messaging that came initially from this thing, from the WHO, was wrong.
Totally wrong. I agree.
That just set everything off.
And that triggered some reaction. That triggered a lot of disinformation.
Exactly.
A lot of thing about the virus, whatever. They wasn't surety. And then, they would talk about Donald Trump would talk about bleach inject.
Yeah. And so the messages were mixed. They were wrong.
Yeah, it plays with the people mind.
Yeah.
And some people believe this virus thing, but the reality is that maybe millions have died already because of this virus. Millions.
Yeah. A lot of people.
And there's still thousands still dying right now in the USA and in Jamaica.
And it's unfortunate because, what it shows is that the social distancing and the mask is the thing that works very well,
Yes.
And, I can attest to it. And I think people need to get vaccinated, right?
Vaccination is important.
Yeah, people need to get vaccinated.
Yeah, listen, we know when we were born kids, we have to get regular vaccination.
Yeah.
Right? We get that. We gotta go. One of them things want to give a little spot on the shoulder, left shoulder, right shoulder.
Yeah. But the other thing, Sean, is like a friend of mine said, but boy, how this vaccine not going to affect you? So you know what I said to him? I said, listen, if the vaccine going to affect me in 20 or 30 years' time, at that age, I happy if I'm living at that time.
Yes.
So it can affect me all it was at that time.
And this is what I say. And this is what I say. And this is what I say to anyone. Vaccine save lives.
Yeah, man. Save lives.
Vaccine saves lives.
And this is what
take lives. And that's
I think that the drive that our Prime Minister is on has been a very good move. Right? Because to be out there as a leader, I think the leaders of countries need to be out there, just like Joe Biden was out there in the US too.
Right.
Our Prime Minister has been out there. I think he's doing an excellent job with it, because you want your leaders to be upfront with it.
Take the blunt to the blame. Be there, walk with the people, explain to the people, talk to them.
Yeah, man. So he has been doing a very good job with it.
And I think Tuckton too has been out there too. I see him doing his job.
But Sean, I have to tell you this one. You know what I find out? I find out that a lot of the men out there who say they're anti-vaxxers and questioning the vaccine, you know what the real problem is?
No.
They're afraid of the needle.
You serious?
Serious. Afraid of the needle.
Listen, all right. Listen, I'm not laughing at them, but we all have a fear. Because me personally, me not like dentists. Me not like afraid of dentists, I'm afraid of doctor. We have all common fear. Like anybody else. I mean, women have that too.
The irony of it is that if you get COVID, you might have a whole heap of needle coming at you.
That's for sure. Dennis, my brother.
Yeah, man.
I'm sorry, but I have to ask you for a second time. I'll just email you and make see what
man, no problem.
Because 1 hour just passed, and I know you got other things to do, and I don't want to keep your time no more. I promise my viewer that would bring you on, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come. And I'll be definitely do a part 2. I'm just going to make your arrangement with you and a time which day, and then I will announce it. I know my friends, viewers, really appreciate the information you have passed on, and I've been taking some notes about the economy, and that's critical what you're saying. And if there's no revolution in Parliament, then Jamaica 2030 vision will not be achieved, as you said.
Yeah.
And inflation will always be a constant thing. The dollar depreciation will always be a problem. Inflation will eat away whatever income extra you have earned or income increase you have received. And these are critical things. And you said transportation is one. We need infrastructure overall. I don't know. I thought Mr. Dennis, my brother, thank you.
Man. All right, Sean.
Good night. We talk soon again, my brother. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Be
all
safe.
Right, no problem.
One love.
All right, you too.
All
okay.
Right. Yes, my favorite farm. That was the interview with Dennis Chung, financial analysis and all that, and director of many organizations, chairman, and my brother. He said a lot. And I hope that he promised to give a part two, because I didn't even go through the crime and violence with him to discuss that, and we didn't finish the COVID-19 issue we're talking about. I gotta respect his time, and we are way past our time already. It's almost 9:08. So I will make another contact with him, see what date is available, and then we can continue this discussion. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this conversation, and I really hope that you all have learned from what he's saying. And I think what he has said makes a lot of sense. And if Jamaica has to move forward, he says that the parliament has to become revolutionized. They have to put in some real work for the country, and it has to be quickly, decisively, with action, not lip service, but action. So, my family, faithful family, friends, and YouTubers, thank you for joining me and my perspective. It was a wonderful first night, and I really appreciate that you enjoyed this conversation between me and Mr. Dennis Chung, financial analysis, chartered accountant of Jamaica. Have a good night. Be safe. One love. Peace out, and see you next week, Wednesday night. Oh, remember, wear your mask, social distance, and wash your hands still, because this COVID-19 is still there. If not, please get vaccinated. Thank you all for your comments, and I really appreciate your time, taking time to come and join me on My Perspective, the first episode for the fall season. Have a wonderful night and good night.